Jane and Jessie in the morning.
Hello and welcome to our first learning module brought to you by Seattle Children's Hospital and Plugs. This new series consists of short video segments on important and interesting topics in utilization management.
Important and interesting? However, are we going to narrow that down, Jessie?
In today's topic, we're going to be talking about pitfalls.
Pitfalls? That sounds dangerous.
Quite. Pitfall is actually defined as a loosely covered trap meant to catch animals or even men.
Hey, I think that's how I met my husband. I'm glad we're starting off with this topic. I feel like I have a lot to add to this conversation.
So the focus of our conversation today will be on traps to avoid when implementing a utilization management program. So first, does not stand for, that test costs a lot of money.
But Jessie, I thought the goal of was to save money.
Well, yes, Jane, that is true. But the burning platform of any program is critical, and messaging is quite key. So you really shouldn't focus just on the hospital's bills. You should really focus on the patient. Keep that front and center. Remember, the value equation for the patient is the quality of the test divided by the cost. When a patient or family receives a large or unexpected bill in the mail, they're really going to question whether or not that test was valuable.
That's right, Jessie, especially if the doctor was testing out of curiosity. But the impact of high laboratory bills affects the lab's ability to provide crucial testing services for all patients. So I think what you're saying is that should focus on the patient.
Yes, and if providers understand that you're really all on the same team, and your goal is to really give the best care to the patient possible, the whole idea of is going to be easier for them to swallow, and they won't see the program itself as a pitfall.
The truth is, though, that money is a big motivator, and many labs might feel a lot of pressure to get their programs started to save their hospital money. It's important, with that in mind, to recognize that does not stand for until the next millennia.
What do you mean, Jane?
Another way to think about this is failure to launch. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the concept of starting a program. The money aspect alone is overwhelming. An $8 million send-out bill is enough to send anyone into early retirement. There are literally hundreds of practices which could and should be altered. IgG allergy testing, ordering out of scope, etc.
Really seems daunting.
Exactly. But if you never start, then you'll never impact any of it. The best strategy is to start small and then expand. Pick a focused approach, perhaps only reviewing, perhaps you set a cost threshold so that you review 2 to 3 tests per week. You could select low-hanging fruit and manage specific tests. The method you choose needs to work with your specific institution and resources.
All right, I've got it. So you start small and make sure that your messaging is clear and all about the patient. I thought of another one.
What?
Does not stand for under the microscope.
But Jessie, we're talking about a lab here, and we have plenty of microscopes. Isn't that the point, to review the orders in detail to make sure the right test request is ordered?
That's true, Jane, but however you design your program, whether you use specific tests or criteria, it's really important for your sanity that you realize it's really not your job to examine every chart note, every possible test combination or diagnosis. You would fall into a pit of despair, pun intended, if you tried to interpret your process that deeply.
So what is the best approach then?
I like to use the analogy of bumper lanes in a bowling alley. So a successful consultant approaches each request just like those bumpers. It's a gentle nudge to get the provider back on track so that they can follow a sequential testing approach, or really just holding up a mirror for them to get to the right decision. Many times you're going to have a provider that's a bowling phenom like you, Jane. They're going to bowl right down the center of the lane. They won't even know that your program is in place because they've done everything correct. But ultimately, it's not your job to micromanage them. It's the provider's responsibility to order and communicate the test appropriately with their patient.
And bowl that strike.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay, I'll spare you any more of these bowling analogies. Let's get our minds out of the gutter, shall we? Here's another pitfall. Sadly for us, Jessie, does not stand for unlawful medicine. We are not the police.
So I guess we really better take off these badges.
Yes, you should. My point, though, is that providers have the right to practice medicine, and the best programs team up with their providers instead of policing them. As the consultant, you should not expect to cancel or modify every test request.
But I really like to win. What about bowling the strike?
The most successful approaches are those where the team partners well with the provider. You've got to win those hearts and minds, even though this means sacrificing a few cases here and there. Using this approach, the provider may just well remember you the next time they sit down to order those 14 tests all at the same time.
Speaking of minds, does not stand for ultra-sensitive memory. Track the cases that you review. Don't focus all your energy and time on adjudicating the cases. You really have to map out the whole process so that you make sure that you don't lose specimens.
Yeah, losing specimens does not win hearts and minds.
Exactly. So tracking cases in a database is really a valuable tool for managing sequential testing requests. And you'll definitely appreciate it later when you have all of your data captured in one easy place and you can measure the positive impact of your program.
This was fun, Jessie, talking about pitfalls with you. Let's review.
Great idea. So remember, does not stand for, that test costs a lot of money. Remember, it's the value equation for the patient.
does not stand for, until the next millennia, pilot those programs.
Does not stand for, under the microscope, don't micromanage your providers.
And does not stand for unlawful medicine. We, and I mean you, Jessie, are not the police.
You really ought to take off that badge, Jane.
Oh, fine.
Finally, does not stand for ultra-sensitive memory. Use the database.
Funny, all this talk about what does not stand for, might have forgotten what it does stand for. Until next time,
Jane and Jessie in the